And it is Denver Sports Night on this Thursday night in the Mile High City. He's Chello Romano. I'm Will Peterson. Hanging out with you for the next hour. Lot to get into, Chello. And I want to start with this. Does Denver have the best hockey and best basketball player in the world? Because it kind of feels that way. Just in the last 24 hours, Nikola Jokic has made his 4th straight All-Star game as a starter, 6th overall. And Nathan MacKinnon has scored a natural hat trick. For those of you who don't know what that means, that's 3 straight goals uninterrupted in a hockey game. Last night in the second period, he made it from 1-0 to 4-0 against the Washington Capitals. And it was only the 2nd natural hat trick in the history of the Avalanche since they moved to Denver. And the other one was by Joe Sakic some 20-something years ago, 2003 to be precise, in Columbus. I mean, Chello, I'm just hanging out today, getting some work done, and it hits me. We have the best hockey player and best basketball player on this big old rock we call home within miles of us when Ball Arena's right down the street or within an hour for most people, and you can go see literally the best guys at their craft, hockey and basketball, on the planet.
At the highest level in the world.
Yeah.
You know,
the best in the world.
It kind of leaves you with the other 2 major sports going, what's going on here, right?
We'll get into those too.
I mean, it is. I mean, after what happened last night with MacKinnon, today's a big day in Broncos history, but not, I mean, in history. But in the here and now, to have those 2 guys, it's easy to say that they're, I mean, obviously, Joel Embiid's had a great last couple weeks, right? And hopefully we see something different on Saturday that'll kind of even that playing field again. But for most people, best player in the world. And for the longest time, Nathan MacKinnon's been kind of in the conversation, maybe just on the outskirts. He's not the McDavid and some of the other guys that are always mentioned. But after the year he's like making a point this year, Will.
He's just missed on the Hart Trophy 3 times in his career. He has finished 2nd once, 3rd a couple of different times. And if you look at the projections from NHL.com, as we sit here today, the writers are predicting MacKinnon will win his first Hart Trophy. He had a funny little quip about it last night saying, well, you know what? I'll just play it for you. I'm not getting my hopes up. A little tough to hear there at the end of that clip, but he was asked about the MVP chance at Ball Arena last night, and he basically makes the joke of, yeah, well, I'm not going to get my hopes up because really I should have been the MVP of this league before. He sends a little bit of a subtle message to the writers. I wrote about that today at denversports.com. But, Chello, it just, I mean, think about it. Like, I don't know the circumference of the earth or the diameter or the radius or whatever the heck ninth grade geometry term I'm supposed to be using. Yeah. The square surface area miles.
Well, it depends if you're talking to Kyrie or not.
And I'm lucky, I get it, but most people listening to this radio show live within a reasonable distance of where the best basketball player and the best hockey player play. I live 5 miles. I'm down in Inglewood.
You know
it's nuts.
No, and the most interesting thing is they're both throwback players, Will. In this day and age, the way that people get, theirs, right? They want to be the headline. They want to be the star. I mean, a lot of that's driven by some of the stars that we have out there. I'd probably put LeBron James in that, that he's not afraid to give himself a compliment or he likes the accolades and all the things that come along with it. These 2 guys, dude, MacKinnon last night scores those goals, and then he's chucking the pucks up into the crowd. That's not something. I mean, even I wouldn't say that I'm like real boastful, but I'd be like, hey man, that's something I'd like to keep. You know how many times you guys watch a guy score a touchdown and he gives it to the equipment guy, mark that, I want to keep it. This is a pretty historic night that he had last night, and the amount of time that he did it was crazy, but he's given that away. Nikola Jokic has been, famously quoted saying he doesn't care about the MVP. He doesn't care about those accolades. What he wants to do is play good basketball and challenge for championships year in and year out.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up sort of MacKinnon's personality in all of this. He did something twice last night that I can count on one hand, and I've covered this guy for almost a decade now, been around him. Twice in one night last night, he smiled. I mean, seriously, Chello, you don't see Nathan MacKinnon smile. He smiled after they won the Stanley Cup. I vividly remember that. And then last night, he smiled. And he smiled at the parade. And it's like, wow. It kind of even if he's going to downplay it, which he's the most humble guy on earth, but I think it kind of hit him in the moment. He was the first guy since Alex Ovechkin in 07-08. Think about where your life was in 2007 or 2008 to have 2 4-goal games in one season. MacKinnon did it last night for a second time in 16 games. 4 goals.
It's crazy.
And as I said at the start of the show, this natural hat trick thing, which is not a term you hear very often because it's so rare. It means you score 1, 2, 3 in a row without an opponent scoring or someone on your team scoring. He scored the goals.
And no empty netters, right?
I don't know.
I think that's part of it.
Good technicality.
Yeah.
He scored the good 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, like you said, in a very quick amount of time. It was about 7 minutes.
Less than 7 minutes.
Yeah, it was less than 7 minutes, and he smiled. And it was like, okay, Nathan MacKinnon is human. He can smile. Because, again, I think that's the 3rd time in my life I've seen him smile.
You know, it's funny. You listen to the postgame, and he's like, you know what, we started off kind of slow. You look at the end result of the game, and you look at his stat line, and you're like, slow? When was the game ever slow? Well, they turned it on the second period.
They win 6-2. They get 4 from MacKinnon. They get 1 from Cale. They get 1 from Mikko.
By the way, it was also a momentous occasion for Cale's as well, right?
Yes, he passed Tyson Barrie for the most goals by an Avalanche defenseman of all time.
Just getting squandered.
But you think about it. You beat Ovechkin, who doesn't look like Ovechkin. I watched that game last night. He didn't do much of anything. But you win 6-2. Your 3 best players score all 6 goals. You have multiple guys with 5-point nights. And we keep talking about depth. Because what did the 2022 Cup team have? Depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
You play like that, I don't know if you need depth because these 3 are 3 of the 8 best players in the world and just on a different planet right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you could say that we're living on a high right now. But, you know, just a couple weeks ago, people were talking about what can they add. And then when you get into playoff hockey and everything gets ratcheted up by like 1,000%, I don't think they're done. I think that they'll make a move. I think you have to because your championship window is now.
Yes.
And after you kind of saw what happened last year when Nichushkin went out and they didn't really have anyone to fill those voids and the people they brought in on paper looked great. And even sometimes even like Rodriguez, some of those guys in nights and flashes, they would be there. But it was the top line that they carried them. That series was competitive just because of their top line.
Right. If they didn't have 96, 29, and 8, Mikko, Nathan, and Cale, they lose to Seattle in 5, if not 4.
Exactly.
And they dragged that thing to 7, where they actually scored a goal to tie it in the 3rd period of Game 7 that got taken off the board. All right, so that's the story with the Avs. I think Nathan MacKinnon, I think you make a good point. He hasn't been the best hockey player in the world before, but he's playing like the best hockey player in the world right now at this moment.
No, it feels like there's an extra drive for him personally this year. And you could say, like, he smiled and a lot of people would say, oh, he's a bit of a Richard, and that's fine. I mean, the way he plays, that's his style. But this year alone, it feels like he's kind of put something within his sights and saying, I'm going out. He loved the taste of that championship, and it looks like he's taking that charge, maybe not so much as a vocal leader like they would have with Landeskog, but he needed to do it some way, and this is his best way out, and he's playing the best hockey that he ever has.
And remember, in 22, he didn't win the Conn Smythe. Cale Makar did.
Yeah.
So he's probably feels snubbed that he's come so close to the Hart 3 different times, hasn't gotten it. If you're newer or newish to hockey, the Hart Trophy is the NHL MVP. And then in those playoffs, you know, I remember guys like James Marilat made super compelling arguments, and I didn't agree with James, but I understood where he was coming from, that you could have given MacKinnon the Hart that year, but Cale just played so well, the Conn Smythe, that Cale just played so well. And remember, it's not like the NBA where it's the finals MVP. It's for the whole playoffs.
Right.
So it was all 20 games. I thought Cale's resume was slightly better than Nathan's, but you know that eats at him a little bit too. Never won the Hart Trophy, and then when they finally host the Cup, not the guy who's done it here for 9 years, the shiny new toy, the kid out of UMass in his second, 3rd year, comes in and takes his Conn Smythe. I think in a perfect world this year, Nathan MacKinnon would win the Hart Trophy, the Avalanche would win the Stanley Cup, and Nathan MacKinnon would win the Conn Smythe Trophy and just kind of have one of those legacy-type years where he clean sweeps it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the biggest thing for me is that there's nights where in years gone past, if guys aren't stepping up and handling their own, he'd kind of somewhat not check out, but there wasn't a leadership quality behind it. this year, it kind of seems like if they're faltering at all, that he just takes the torch and says, "Get on my back," and we're going, and then the team kind of follows, which they needed that type of leadership, especially with the absence of Gabe Landeskog.
Absolutely. All right, that's the Avs story. We'll get back to the Avs if we have some time in this hour, but let's go over to the Nuggets. They are currently finishing up a road trip. We'll see how that plays out. We'll talk about that later, but I want to talk about Jokic. Makes his 6th straight All-Star game tonight. This is all breaking in the last hour or so. Gets his 4th straight as a start. And this is what stood out to me, Chello, and I want your thoughts on this. He did not get the most votes from the fans in the front court of the West. That, of course, was LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
But he did get the most votes from the fellow players and the media. Nikola Jokic has surpassed LeBron James from his peers and the people that cover the league on a nightly basis. And he came pretty darn close in the fan vote, but LeBron edged him out. What does that say about Nikola, that 2/3 of the vote of the pool, if you will, that's not necessarily how they're divided up, but that the players and the media, and not the fans, have put Nikola Jokic above LeBron James in All-Star game voting?
I think he's probably completely turned all doubters. And it only took 2 MVPs, a second-place finish for an MVP, and an NBA championship, right?
And a Finals MVP.
Yeah, and a Finals MVP for everyone to finally say, no matter the way that it looks, it's not the most flashy thing, but as far as fundamentals, the guy is unbelievable. His eye for passing is next level beyond most, well, certainly more than any other big man that we've ever seen. But it rivals some of the best guys in the history of the game, and now you can't deny it anymore. And while you still may have some of that fan hate, I think it was in Boston, that kid went on like a podcast and was saying, we need to get this guy out of the league. He's ruining the league. Like, that kind of stuff is going to continue. One, you're a fan. You're upset your team lost their first game at home all year.
Right.
And two, you're just, I mean, you need to get on board. I mean, like, I think for the longest time, people were like, the other shoe's going to drop. There's no other shoe. This guy is an all-time great, and everybody's realizing it now.
And not to sound get off my lawn, I'm in my mid-30s, but you know, a 19-year-old on TikTok doesn't really do it for me.
No, but the funny
analysis.
thing is he's not alone in that sentiment, which is silly.
Yes. But
I mean, how many other things do you have to do for people to get on board with? He's one of the best all-time, Will, not just, you know, of this era, all-time. And if he continues on this pace, he's going to be mentioned with, like, greats of all time in the league.
And it's clear that as we sit here on January 25th, 2024, Nikola Jokic is a better basketball player than LeBron James. Nikola Jokic has been a better basketball player than LeBron James for 4 or 5 years now. But there is something largely symbolic about that finally getting noticed. That his fellow players don't just see their ballot and go, oh, LeBron, I got to put LeBron 1 because he's LeBron.
No, let me ask you this. Was it last year they did the pick? I know they're going back to the regular All-Star, how they pick teams. Last year they had captains, right? And they picked players.
Didn't he get drafted last?
And he was like the last guy selected. So, like, I mean, if it were to happen again this year, do you think he's the last guy selected?
No, because what we've learned tonight is that he got the most votes from his fellow players. I should clarify, for big men in the West. But when you're in the same category as LeBron James and Kevin Durant, that's a pretty big honor to finally get.
Yeah.
So with that said, with the players noticing, we know the media's noticed. They got guilted into giving it to Embiid last year. He should have won his 3rd in a row. He should be going for his 4th MVP in a row. But with the players noticing and the media noticing, I'll ask you this. What's it going to take for Nikola Jokic to win the fan support next year as the number 1 big man in the West? Is it going to take a 2nd straight title? And would even if he beat LeBron in the playoffs again, would that get him there? Or is this a case of LeBron James till the day he hangs it up is just going to get the most votes because he's LeBron James?
That's tough for me because I think a lot of it is, and I don't know if it'll always stay LeBron, but I think if he gets usurped and somebody, it'll be someone else that'll get the most from the fans. And it'll be somebody that's a little bit more flashy. Maybe it's a Devin Booker. Maybe it's I don't even know. It's someone that's going to be a little bit more flashy because that's what this game, that's what people like to see. Because you go back to the mid-'80s when Jordan, Bird and Magic were doing their thing, basically saved the league. That's what everybody fell in love with. What Jokic does, if you're just a straight-up basketball fan, you love every second of it. But if you're wanting that high-flying, Give me the big old highlights so that I can see somebody fly above somebody or posterize somebody. You're not going to get that. And I don't know that fans will ever jump on. I mean, when did Tim Duncan ever become that guy?
Yeah, but hold on. I log on to social media every night and see a pass that Nikola Jokic did either between his legs or over his head or no look or looking like the best QB the Broncos would have had by launching it 80 feet down the court.
Dude, the pass I think it was in Boston where he jumped up. And he turned in midair and found, I think, MPJ on the baseline.
Right, but you're kind of making my point for me that he does make flashy
I know,
plays.
But what I'm saying is, you told me what will it take for the fans to jump on board. I'm already on board.
Right, and I'm not just saying Nuggets fans. I'm saying NBA fans, international fans.
And I'm saying NBA fans worldwide, they like that flash. They like the dude flying through the air, slamming it down. You know, the passes, I love a great pass. Kids nowadays, they've been kind of duped with the LeBron and the Currys. If they're not passing, they're shooting threes. You know, I mean, that's the flashy thing to them. I love watching the old school Magic, no look, swipe it to the side, find the open guy.
Yeah, but what about the threes he made in the playoffs last year? Those went viral. I mean, he made some absurd threes over Anthony Davis.
I know.
I think of the one in the CryptoStateBull.com center that, was like the most ridiculous three ever in a closeout game to sweep the LA Lakers.
Yes. I love it.
And I'm not trying to pin you in a corner here, but what I'm getting at, Chello, he wins the MVP this year. They win the title again. He wins Finals MVP again. He'll pass LeBron James in the fan vote next year. That's my prediction.
I don't know that it happens. And listen, I would love to see it happen. And even if it's not LeBron James, I think there's going to be another player that somebody puts up there. They like the flash.
I know, but I think LeBron, the only reason he's still ahead of Jokic, who's so clearly the best basketball player on earth, is legacy vote at this point. I'm sure when Michael Jordan was with the Wizards, he got the legacy vote too. And some right, those guys have earned it, obviously.
Yeah.
But in some right, I started this conversation by saying Jokic has been a better basketball player than LeBron James for 4 or 5 years now. We need to start reflecting that at some point in all the votes. And maybe I'm just being greedy, and maybe I love still feeling the Jokic is disrespected card because we played that card for so long.
But yeah, I mean, it's one thing. One, we are here. We love this guy. We love this team.
Yeah.
Cover this team. And there's a certain amount of bias. You asked me what's it going to take for the fans. So that means somebody in New York, somebody in LA, someone in Chicago, down in Miami. What's it going to take for them to say he's the best and he should be the number one vote getter? I don't know that if it surpasses it, I'll be glad to be wrong.
Yeah.
I just think the fan base that the NBA has is more attuned to having that a Michael Jordan, a LeBron James, Steph Curry when he was doing his thing. What I love what Jokic does, and I think he's deserving of having all that. An NBA fan to me, if they haven't gotten it yet, I don't know what else it's going to take.
Yeah, well, it'd probably take another title at the bare minimum, and then we'd see if that'd catch people's attention. We're going to get to the Broncos in just a few minutes, I promise, but I want to close this out. We're talking about the two teams down at Ball Arena. Who has the better chance to win a title this year? And second part of that, who needs to make the bigger move at the trade deadline? Let's start with right now as constructed, who has the better chance to win a title this season?
For me, I would, I was pretty dang close. It's like 1A, 1B for me. But I think I would put the Avalanche slightly above.
Interesting.
Right now.
Do go on.
Well, I would say that because of what the Clippers are doing of late. You saw the series between Phoenix and Denver last year, and that was still kind of in its infancy, what's going on in Phoenix. Looks like Booker's got it going on again now. I mean, those two dudes had to shoot like out of their minds for that series to be competitive, but they did. And the Clippers are going to be a lot more of a challenge if they do face them. I think the Nuggets are more in need of making a drastic move or a different kind of guy to bring in to get them down the stretch.
Okay, here's my counter to that. Come the NBA playoffs, the rotations are so tight. We saw it last year. Jokic was playing 42 minutes. Jamal's playing 40 minutes. MPJ's playing 37 minutes. Heck, we saw games where Michael Malone only played 7 players. There were nights in LA where Christian Brown didn't even get into the game. So that's why I'd pick the Nuggets, because as much as we miss Bruce Brown, to some extent Jeff Green, this starting 5 can play you 40 minutes a night. And so you really just need the Peyton Watsons of the world and the Reggie Jacksons of the world, probably the Christian Browns of the world, to give you 7, 8, 9, 10 good minutes. Whereas the Avs, I'm not trying to put them down, and now I'm going back a little bit on what I told you 20 minutes ago. Yeah, McKinnon, McCarr, and Rantanen can carry you to a title, but you still got to cycle 4 lines. You still can't hide Kiviranta. No offense to Kiviranta.
My rebuttal to that,
but I don't know anything about his game.
No, and nor do I. But my rebuttal to that would be, it's harder to just take over a game while that second, third, and even if it's a fourth line is in, right? They may give up a goal and then you can swap it out. You need to get your guys rest in the NBA postseason. And say you needed 6 to 8 minutes, and in the postseason you go down by 13, 14, 15 points. Like a lot of times we've seen it this year in the regular season. They take the starters out, and then the game kind of gets away from them a little bit, right?
The non-Jokic minutes have been an issue for years, but even this year in particular.
And at that point, and then they've proven that they can come back, but I think it's easier to kind of take over a game when those guys are out if they don't have somebody that can kind of fill that void and slow them down.
I think we differ on the answer to both questions, and I think that's why it's good. You can text us, ramoslaw.com, text line 303.
Can I say I think they're both?
713-1043. I had a brain fart there. I think I got it out right. I almost gave out my home number. Shout out friend Gil out there. I know you're listening, Gil. But I think the Nuggets, if I had to pick today, have a better shot to win it. And I think the Avs need to make the bigger move. And I think you said you have the Avs as the better shot of winning it, and you think the Nuggets need to make the bigger move. So we just slightly disagree. And I'm with you. It's pretty 1A, 1B. It's not this monstrous gap we're talking about. But I just think Joe Sakic needs to make a move at the deadline that's fairly major. I don't think the Nuggets need to do much. Just tweak, if anything.
So fairly major in the Avalanche sense. What does that mean? Does that mean
I like Sam Girard's story. I love him coming back, but he still makes too much money. You got to unload his contract.
So give me a player type that you're looking for. Are you looking for? And also, what do you feel about Georgie?
I think goalie could be a 1A, right? But I look at Elias Lindholm up in Calgary. This guy scored 40 goals 2 years ago. He's a 2-line center. Ironically enough, he's Nazem Kadri's teammate right now. He would be Nazem Kadri's replacement that they still haven't replaced since they won the Cup. So I'll give you Lindholm. And then what about a goalie? I don't know. Marc-Andre Fleury. How's his trophy cabinet look? I know the guy's like 40 years old. But you telling me Marc-Andre Fleury couldn't come in here and give you a dozen playoff games? I think he could find that in the tank.
I think for even the very minimal amount of time that we've said that these teams have had kind of down, like they lost 2 in a row or something, or they just didn't look good for a stretch, a week maybe. They're both still, what are they, 31 and 14?
I think the records are identical if you throw out the overtime losses.
Yeah, it's sitting atop both of their respective conferences, and I don't know that you need a major move but I think you need to do something. The cool thing is, that's what this team's history is in the Avalanche I'm talking about. You got to this time of the year, and that's when Theo Fleury became available. That's where some of these big names in years gone past. Rob Blake. That's what I'm saying. Is there a guy like that we need to take him over the top? I don't know if it's that big of a name, but it's something that they're going to need. Because there's the last couple years, some of the names that you thought looked great bringing in the offseason haven't quite panned out the way they thought they were going to be once they put on the burgundy and blue.
In a perfect world, those 2 additions would be Valeri Nichushkin and Gabriel Landeskog. Let's keep our fingers crossed on both.
Keep it in-house.
For 2 very different reasons. Hey, we appreciate you helping us out on YouTube, Denver Sports. If you could go like our videos, leave a comment, and mainly subscribe, we would love that. Check us out, Denver Sports on YouTube.